All right. Well, listen, welcome to the Gratitude Infusion Mastermind. This is the December version, the 6th of December. And as I said earlier, I know a lot of people are busy, so it's a challenging time of year. I was noticing in January, it'll be the 3rd, I think, and we'll kind of kick things off for the new year when we get to that mastermind and so forth. But it looks like most people have their cameras on, which I always appreciate. My good friend Sajad always says that's how you can show you trust somebody, which I totally agree with. And virtual hand raise or actual hand raise. For those of you that are new, I see some new faces too. Let me give you a little idea of what it is. There's usually interactive exercise. So you want to have a piece of paper and a pen. For that, we'll have a breakout room for probably 3 or 4 people, about 20 minutes into it for about 15 minutes. And as I said, it's the first Wednesday of the month and the registration is on Zoom. And the agenda, which is the typical agenda, I've tweaked it a little bit since I started in May, but I have a content pillar that I teach in the first 15 to 20 minutes, a gratitude module, if you will. And then, as I mentioned, an exercise. So if you have a pen or paper, you might want to have that handy. And then any questions or comments, depending on the size of the group, you can do it your literal hand raise in the screen or a virtual one, and I'll get to that. And then the breakout rooms, I'll have 2 or 3 questions which are in the chat. The questions are already in the chat, and I know a lot of people like to develop their own conversation, which of course is just fine with me, but I've got 3 questions that kind of kick things off for people that want to have something that sort of prime the chat, if you will. And then after the content pillar, any takeaways, any comments, then we move on to the breakout rooms, as I mentioned, and then any questions or comments about that. Also, I put a bunch of links in the chat, which have my daily gratitude journal. You can get in there. My complimentary coaching consultation is there. To subscribe on YouTube, my Monday Morning Minute, another link to the Gratitude Mastermind, and then some other contact information at the bottom. So that is that. So, and then I've got those links, as I mentioned. So that's it. So I'm going to start with something that I do. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do one thing first. For anybody that is new and you wonder who's this gratitude guy, I've been a speaker and coach and author and teacher for about 10 years. My number one passion by far is speaking. And out of my speaking, I get a lot of connections for coaching consultations, workshops. I do workshops for Boeing and Microsoft. And so those came out of speaking gigs. And so it's really been a fun thing for me to expand the business about gratitude. And of course, I call myself that gratitude guy. So a couple of you may have seen this, but I was down in, this is for the benefit of the people that haven't been here yet. I was down in Las Vegas last month to do a talk for a big credit organization, and about 1,000 people, and it was really neat. And my son, Connor, my younger son, came over from San Diego to help me with the talk. And then I have an older son here in Seattle, Kyle, who is 39. Connor is 29. So, but my guy came down and did the video of the whole event, but he also did some testimonials. And so I thought I would show you this 44-second testimonial that Connor did, which talks a little bit about what I talk about and what my sort of goal is with gratitude. And this was right after the talk when they did about 5 or 6 different testimonials. And this is Connor and his comments.
We're broadcasting live. Broadcasting live. Well, I just got finished seeing that gratitude guy here in lovely Las Vegas at the Sahara. Gotta say, it was a life-changing moment. It's been a lot of time since I've seen my dad speak, over about 8 years since pursuing his dream. And you got to say that he gives tangible things that people can take home and get to transform their lives with gratitude. And I highly recommend, whenever you have a chance, please follow him on YouTube, TikTok, and follow his message, because he just wants to go out there and help everyone that he can through spreading his message of gratitude. So thank you so much. And I love my dad.
So that gives you a little idea of what I talk about. I guess it's obvious it would be gratitude, but spreading the message of gratitude and explaining to people. I was on a podcast early this morning and talking about how he wanted to know about my story. And I was saying that a lot of it, gratitude was the answer for me, which is why I've done all this speaking and now this Gratitude Infusion Mastermind, is because it's all about getting a hold of people and showing them that there is a coping mechanism that's extremely healthy in a world of destructive and deadly ones. My wife passed away of a prescription pill overdose when she was 38. So I'm well aware of gratitude. I'm well aware of coping mechanisms that that aren't very healthy and certainly deadly. So, Jod, question.
Your links didn't post, David.
Oh, they didn't? Oh, that's weird.
I don't think so.
Let me check again. Hold on a second. Let's see if this, did it show up there? Shows it on mine. And I see one from Jeff too.
Yeah, now
You're good. You're good to go now.
Okay, thank you. So before I get into the content pillar, every month I want to just stop and talk about the gratitude journal. And this happens to be mine, that Gratitude Guy's Daily Gratitude Journal. It's there in the link. You can get it. It'll take you right to Amazon. You can buy it. It's $20. And one of the things I tell people, you can get this or you can get a spiral notebook, whatever you want to get. But I'll tell you, it's so powerful because there's a little saying in the front of the journal that says, if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you. And there's something so powerful about, I am so thankful to Jeff Sarah for inviting me to a talk next week, et cetera, that type of thing. And it plants it in your brain. So I highly recommend, and again, you could get mine, and it's got a little, this particular one, as I say, you can do a spiral notebook, but it's got a little template to it where it says the day and the date, gratitude today, your daily number, which it kind of assesses your mood or your sort of standing for that day, if you will, how you're doing. 2 lines for current events, so you don't have to have a diary. 5 or 6 lines for what you're grateful for, the highlight of your day down here, and then a little quote at the bottom, kind of gives you a quote of the day, if you will. And then on the right-hand side is your gratitude intentions, which is what you're going to be grateful for before it's even happened. So very powerful tool. And so I like to really emphasize that every single month about why that's so important. So, all right, so let's get into this month's content pillar. And I did this last month. I had a sort of part 1 and part 2 on what I learned from Nordstrom. And some of this relates to gratitude, but there was just a lot of good things that I got out of my 15 years from working there. And they did a lot of very cool things. People that know Nordstrom know that there's the people that are the return policy, and you can return, you can return things that people enjoy working there. They must think there's some training program. There's all these aspects of Nordstrom that people think they know, but there was a lot of things they didn't know. And so I did part 1 last month and just talking about some of the things I learned from that 15 years, phenomenal company to work for. So I was going to go through a couple more things today on what I learned from Nordstrom part 2. Number 1 is something that was fascinating, how to get promoted and move up. You never, ever applied for a job at Nordstrom. You would go and do your work, and then 1 or 2 people would tell the people above your job that they think this is the person for you. And so then they would pick that person. You'd get called, by the way, you're the new store manager of the Yakima store. By the way, you're the new store manager of the Tacoma store. And so it was really quite interesting how that was done. And they always wanted you to help people get promoted. It was always about bringing people up from the bottom. Everything was promote from within. Even the Nordstrom family, the kids that were all very well known, started down in the shoe stock room and worked their way up. So there was none of this coming in at the top and thinking like you get so much education and you get to start and you don't have to stop and do the stock room and sweep the floors and do the shoes and all that kind of thing. So they had 2 company policies. Policy number 1 was the customer is always right. And the policy number 2 is if the customer is wrong, refer to policy number 1. So that was pretty basic. And in later years, I found out that it was really more important, still very important to have the customer be right, but it's more important to have the employee be right. Because if you have happy employees, you'll have happy customers. And so that changed over the years where they put a lot more emphasis on the employees that work there, making sure they're happy and they were compensated extremely well. One of the ways they were compensated was commissions. And so many people just paid hourly and they always paid commission too. So next, customer focus. You've heard about some of this, but go the extra mile for the customers. You would never get in trouble for taking care of a customer. And I thought this was a phenomenal philosophy, because I remember once a guy had a bad pair of pants and he was all embarrassed or something. He brought it back and it ripped and so on. And so I gave him a free suit. And so the powers that be asked me, what were you doing there? And I said, well, he was really upset. I figured he needed a new suit. And so they said, well, that was very nice. You're not in trouble. but I don't think next time you have to give them a whole suit. I think a couple of pairs of pants might have been nice or something, but you never, ever got in trouble for that. And that return policy is extremely well known, no questions asked. I remember going into stores to return something and being shuffled off to another counter. No, you need to come over here, and we'll get somebody return on aisle 6, and they get somebody over to the side. You felt like you were some sort of second-class citizen as you were shuffled off to the side. And return, whether you were a return or a purchase, it didn't matter. Everybody was given the same amount of courtesy, if you will. And then a couple of things I always loved, which you might have heard before: you never get a second chance to make a first impression. You got one shot at it. If you blow it, you're not going to get a second time to make that first impression. And then also, you never get a second chance to do it right the first time. And I always thought that was really good, because you got one shot, and if you blow it, it's going to be trouble. So you have to think that through, which is part of the thing that they talked about. So team building, collaboration. They always encourage new ideas and new ways of doing things. It was never, well, we've done it this way for 10, 20, 30 years, that kind of thing. This is the way we're doing it. We don't want to listen to any new information or whatever. That was never like that. They had what they called the 3-part triangle. And that was, there's 3 ways that you were sort of rated, if you will, or evaluated, I guess is the word I want. Sales was certainly one of the triangle. Teamwork was the second part, and customer service was the third. Customer service is obvious. They had great customer service, and so that was always meant to take it to the highest level possible. If you drove somebody out, literally almost it took a pair of socks because they didn't have the right order and drove it out to their house, it didn't matter. That was customer service. Teamwork was self-explanatory. Everybody has to pitch in, and there was never anybody, regardless if the person was the top salesperson or not. They did just as much work as the person that just got hired recently or whatever. And then sales is obvious. They had sales per hour, SPH. You were definitely evaluated on that. I know my son Connor worked at Costco for a while, and they have items per hour, I think, is their thing at the checking stand. So very similar type thing. And so, but another big philosophy, if you want to help yourself, help others, you've heard that, but is extremely valuable there, because so many people, if you got people promoted, if you had a good environment in your department or in your store or whatever it is, everybody would, like the rising tide raises all boats, was kind of one of those things too. Something that I did, I don't think a lot of store managers did it, but I was very proud of this. I managed 3 different stores. And once I got to those stores, I worked one day in every single department in the store. So I got to know everything all about cosmetics, Estee Lauder, Lancome, Clinique, whatever it might have been, men's shoes, women's shoes, whatever, and all those different places. But that's that idea of getting in there and knowing what your employees are going through, so you can feel it firsthand, and you're not just from some ivory tower or whatever. And then the work hard thing, and let your actions do the talking. I got 9 promotions in 15 years, never once asked for a job. I mean, I never had any idea I was going to go up to be a store manager. I just wanted to go sell suits, because part of my time in my life, things weren't working that well. So I'll just go sell suits. In fact, that's where I met Mark Caton, as a matter of fact, and work hard, and and everything else will take care of itself. And it was so funny, because they would just call you, "How are you doing? This is John Nordstrom." "Oh, hi, Mr. John. How are you?" "Yeah, you're going to be running the Tacoma store. Can you start there tomorrow at 8 o'clock? I go, I guess so. "Yeah, well, be there tomorrow at 8 o'clock. They're expecting you." And you didn't even know you were up for the promotion. So it was very, very cool. So leadership, employee selection, we've heard that many times. What is it? Hire slow and fire fast is sort of the current thing. The employee selection, interviewing skills. They had all sorts of templates we could use to interview people to really figure out what kind of person they were. Did they have a customer service attitude? And then onboarding was very thorough, and they go through all the different training for the first 2 weeks before you even went on the floor. And then goal setting, no surprise here. That was a very big thing, individual, team, and organization. And if your organization, your store is doing well, if your department's doing well and you're doing well, that was kind of the trifecta, which was all 3 of them. And so that was something that was neat. And then employee engagement, I remember seeing, because people were so well compensated, and there was always tons of contests and prizes. And I will say there was one thing. I won a trip to Hawaii a couple of times as the store manager of the year. And then the management told me, "You're not going to actually take that trip, are you? I mean, because we're pretty busy. So you're not going to actually take the trip, right?" And I go, "God dang." So anyway, but the leadership was always really good, because people had known that they had been at the bottom and worked their way up too. So Performance management, my final thing, performance evaluation, great on evaluating performance. How many in this group today have been in jobs where nobody even told you how you were doing unless you were going to get fired or something? And so they were always making sure you knew where you stood. Tremendous conflict resolution aspect, bringing 2 people plus a third party in to resolve the conflict, and it never got to fester, which I always thought was really cool. And then they would take corrective action around it as well. So, and then when they did have to terminate somebody or somebody left, they'd always do thorough exit interviews to find out how that was impacted. And then and they had a whole saying and language of their own, that just the terms that we use there, shoe dog and different things you've heard of, but it all helped with effective communication. And then last couple of things is, and I pride myself in never doing this, is you never would talk down to people. We've all been around people, well, you wouldn't understand. You see, I'm the store manager, you're just the guy doing the freight. To me, the person doing the freight or the person cleaning the bathrooms was just as important as the top salesperson I had in my department. And, and then plus asking lots of questions, and you can't learn when you're talking, which I think is one of the famous things Larry King said. And the thing that I remember the most is being a good listener. And people still get surprised when I say this, but the biggest store I managed was Northgate with about 550 employees. I knew every single person's name. I knew their wife or husband's name. I knew their kids' name. And I even found out if they won the soccer game on Saturday. And all you have to do is look at the person's face to see how they look when you call them by name, and then ask about little Johnny's soccer game, and you'll have loyal employees the rest of your life. So very, very powerful. All right. One more thing. And then in about 5 minutes, we'll go to our breakout rooms. And I've got the questions in the chat, as I mentioned. Gratitude and the holidays. So I won't see any of you officially on the Gratitude Infusion Mastermind until January 3rd. So we've got the holidays coming up. We just got past Thanksgiving, and we've got Christmas and New Year's, which will happen between now and we meet again. So I'm going to run through these kind of quickly, but I thought they were kind of cool. Just some things. Gratitude is a key theme during the holiday season. Expressing thanks for the blessings in our lives is an important tradition. The holidays are a time to reflect on what we were thankful for. I look at thankful and appreciative as being synonymous with gratitude. Gratitude can improve our overall well-being. I've talked about this on this mastermind before, about how it can physically, emotionally, and mentally impact your life in a very positive way. It's important to show appreciation to loved ones during the holidays. Sending thank you notes for gifts is a thoughtful gesture. Acts of kindness and generosity are forms of expressing gratitude. Volunteering during the holidays is a way to give back and show gratitude. I've already seen all the bell ringers out around here from St. Vincent de Paul. Many families have a tradition of sharing what they're thankful for at the dinner. And I just was at a Thanksgiving dinner down in Arizona with my friend, and there's 30 people, and every single person stood up and said what they were thankful for, which was really, really cool. So counting our blessings reminds us to have of all the positive aspects of our lives. Gratitude can help reduce stress and increase happiness. I talk about that all the time. Expressing gratitude can strengthen relationships with family and friends. Donating to charities, I just mentioned that during the holidays, is a great way to show gratitude for our own abundance. Acts of kindness, such as those for people in need, are a form of gratitude in action. The holiday season often inspires people to be more giving and charitable. Gratitude can lead to more positive and an optimistic outlook on life. I've said it in many, many talks I've done about 2 people enter the hospital with the same disease. The positive attitude lives, the negative attitude dies. Many people make New Year's resolutions to cultivate gratitude. Giving homemade gifts can convey heartfelt gratitude. Spending quality time with loved ones is a meaningful way to express gratitude. Gratitude can be shared through the act of hugging and showing affection. Remembering those less fortunate can deepen our sense of gratitude. And lastly, gratitude is a beautiful way to celebrate the true spirit of our holidays. So little information for gratitude in the holidays. Okay, let's do a quick, before we go to the breakout rooms, let's do a quick exercise. So here's what I want you to do. Pad and paper, piece of paper and a pen. And I'm going to put 60 seconds on the timer. And hold on a second. Let me get to my timer. And here's what I'd like you to do as fast as you can. This is going to involve a little homework. I've done this in a lot of my workshops before, and I don't think I've done it here before. So, but even if I have, it's a good time to do it again. So here's what I want you to do. In 60 seconds, I want you to write as many things as you can to describe the most memorable events of your life. And it's only going to be, you're only going to get 60 seconds. So write as many things as you can, personally, professional, family, work, travel, vacations, kids, whatever are the most memorable events of your life. Write as many things as you can in 60 seconds. Go. Okay, and stop. And as you can imagine, that is actually kind of a big assignment, but I'm just doing this to get you started for 60 seconds. So what I'd like you to do is, today is December 6th, Wednesday. So I would like a high five or a thumbs up to the screen to promise me you'll do this homework a week from today. I want to see every single thumbs up in the whole group here. I can call your names. I don't. God, isn't it weird? People that just crack themselves up and they're not really that funny. It's always kind of embarrassing. But anyway, all right. So here's the story. Here's the homework. So a week from today, which is Wednesday, December 6th, I would like you to take that list and I'd like you to expand it to one of three things: top 25, top 50, or top 100. You decide. I'm looking right at mine on my bulletin board. It says the top 100 most memorable events of my life. And I did 100. They've been around a long time. So I did 100. And you can do 50 or 25, whichever you prefer, and then put it in priority order. So the order with which you would think is the most memorable event of your life to number 2, number 3, number 4. Now, if I look at mine over there, number 1 is Connor, my youngest son. Number 2 is Kyle, my older son. And then it goes down: national champion, hydroplane driver, saw the Beatles twice, all these, had my own airplane. I've got all these different things that were memorable events. And so many things. And the key to this whole thing, and that's why I'm glad you all promised me you'll do it, even if it's just 25, I don't care. You're having a bad day, you look at that list, it'll change things around. I was looking, I have a big map, shows all the places I've spoken. I got little arrows pointing to different places. And then they have, this is the USA map, and then they have a world map. And one day I went and I looked and I go, I've never been to Greece. I've never been to France. And I started feeling like I haven't done anything. And I went, what is wrong with you? You're the gratitude guy. You're supposed to be focusing on what you have, not what you don't have. So I started writing all these things down and I thought, holy oh cow, what a great exercise. All the things that I've done. We can't, comparisonitis is a huge problem. It's an infection that gets across people all the time. They got a bigger house, better boat, better house, better wife, better husband, whatever it might be. And it's just ridiculous. It's like a cat chasing its tail. So you have a tough day. So I'm glad you all promised me you'll do that, because it's a huge, huge help. And it can make a big difference. And you start looking through that thing and, oh my gosh, I just think, I can't imagine how many things I've done. So thank you in advance for doing the homework. So, all right. So any takeaways from the gratitude for the holidays or Nordstrom information that anybody has before we go to breakout rooms? Questions, comments, thoughts, anything like that? By the way, thank you for all having your camera on. Mr. Sajad, yes, sir.
Part of my list of greatest things are some of the most horrible things, because some of the horrible things are the greatest things.
Oh, I think that's part of it, because that means that's something you powered your way through. And I didn't say the most positive things. I said the most memorable events of your life. And memorable things can really serve well to get you to think, if I made it through this, I can make it through anything, which is very, very important. So very good. All right. Any other questions, thoughts, that type of
Jeff
thing?
has his hand up.
Who does? Oh,
Jeff.
Jeff. Oh, I can't see it. It's my food over there. I can't see it. It looks like part of the food thing. Yes, Jeff, Sarah.
Yeah, kind of in line with what Sajad was saying, where it's having gratitude and looking for like the silver lining in things really supports with even a negative event, to be like, what did I gain from that? Because there's always lessons, there's always learning, there's always an effect it has on who we are today. And if we're grateful for it, then it shifts our perspective and the reality around it for it to not be a negative event, but actually be a part of our journey.
Yeah, excellent. Very, very, very well put. Colleen.
Hey, I just want to comment. I did a session with you several years ago at IGNS, and you did something very similar to this.
Oh, right.
And I still have my card.
Oh, how nice.
And you had us write down our memorable moments. And then you had the person we were paired up with write things about us.
Yeah, that was actually, Colleen, that was the UR card, where how they saw you. And
yeah,
when I'm on virtual, I can't do that, but on person, you can pair up with a person. It's really cool.
It was so memorable, and it says right here underneath my monitor.
Oh,
So
excellent.
I see it every day to remind me that when I'm feeling down about myself or just whatever, that this is how others perceive me. And I think what we just did kind of follows that same thing. And I just want to thank you for that, because
Oh, you're welcome.
it was inspiring and it was impactful.
Thank you. And that IGNS, that was Las Vegas, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a great group of people. And for those that don't know, this is I call it the most memorable events exercise. The UR card is where I'm in person, and I hand out these little 3x5 cards, and then you pair up with a person, and then you write UR on the card, and I write Colleen and you write David, and then I describe in 60 seconds how I see you. You are talented, you are funny, you are nice, you are maternal, whatever it might be. And then when the people read it to each other, then they exchange the card, and they have the card written about them. And this is my favorite part, when I go, by show of hands, how many people might hold on to that card? And like everybody raises their hand. So it's really cool. But it's another one of those things, which is something that you want to use on a day when you're not quite at the top of your game. So thanks, Colleen. Derek.
I tell you what, I love it. I know that it would be nice if when we do this, that when you get together with people appropriately, you share that information, because otherwise it takes months or years or decades or forever to even know what is important to people. And Sajad, I'm with you that memorable does not always mean good. You know, those are some of the biggest leaps in growth that you have, is when something bad happens and you overcome it. So yeah, Colleen, I'm with you. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so they have all these new features on Zoom now. So John,
Mark had a
where's
thought
where's breakout rooms?
I'll take care of it. Mark had whatever thought.
Oh, I didn't see it. Mark, go ahead.
Oh, just quickly, is there a place where we can find these Nordstrom quotations, or all the?
I have it just printed out. They were actually, believe it or not, I was on a flight somewhere, and I wrote all those down in the course of a 2-hour flight. All the things just from memory. So, but I'll send it to you, because I have it on a sheet of paper. It's got
Please do. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, Mr. Sajad, do you want to set them up for 3 people to a room for 15 minutes?
I was trying, but you're right. They changed the buttons.
So I don't see where.
You guys need help?
They've now hidden our buttons.
Where's the breakout rooms? They have all these new things now. Oh, wait a minute. What's more? Oh, there it is. It's on the 3 dots at the end. Okay. All right. This should work. I'll have it assigned automatically. This should be 3 per room. So yeah, it's at the very end. Apparently they didn't think it was very valuable. So anyway, here we go. So I'll see you in about 15 minutes. All right, it looks like everybody is back. I think Steve Ramona had to run, so I think he's gone. So takeaways from the breakout rooms. Any thoughts, comments, interesting observations and so forth from breakout rooms? Derek.
I'll tell you, I love what this does, and we've talked about it before. I was in with Charlotte from Charlotte, which is really cool. And we had a good time, and it ended up that when we mentioned Og Mandino, that was one of the books she read years and years ago. You're doing a good job, this gratitude thing. And by the way, I did finally get a new one.
Oh, wow. That's actually an old one.
Oh,
They all work. But that's the one that has. That's why before somebody was telling me how to write a book, they said, you don't put your picture on the front of it when you're not famous. And so I didn't quite know that back then. So I had my picture on the front. See, so now it's this, and then the picture is back here. But
now the difference is you are famous.
That's a matter of opinion.
It's mine. It's my.
Thank you, Derek. And you mentioned that last month, Derek. It's true. The breakout rooms I've met, and many of the people I see here on regular breakout rooms with me, and things like Sajad's Polarizing Network. Shout out for that. That's tomorrow at 8:00 Pacific Standard Time. And just it's the groups, well, like Jeff's deal, Derek, shared connections. I mean, it's just all the people you see, and yet it's the breakout rooms where you get to see the really more in-depth conversation. Hey, let's you and me meet, let's talk, and let's do a separate Zoom call and stuff, just like you and I did. And it's really neat. So,
thank you.
You bet. Any other thoughts from the breakout room? Nordstrom information or gratitude or positive or negative attitude, that type of thing?
Well, I really liked Adam's comment. So Adam, would you mind sharing to the group what you said? I don't want to state you incorrectly.
No, it's a great discussion. So just the way of empowering the employees to know that there's room for growth internally, and that the managers are help to structure it in a way that people naturally go up in the system, as opposed to looking for external sources to build competencies within the company. I thought that was really forward thinking.
Excellent. And I'll say that Nordstrom by any stretch wasn't perfect. They had their shortcomings and things that were part of that very competitive environment, but certainly the good outweighed the bad. So, and that was one of the good examples and things too. So it was a pressure cooker sometimes too, but if you could survive the pressure cooker, you could do very well. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Adam. Anybody else? Comments? All righty.
I'll share the story from Nordstrom.
Mm-hmm.
David, you feel free to use it in the future.
Sure.
This was Bellevue Square.
Mm-hmm.
And when my son was, I'll say 8-ish, I got him these really cool shoes. They had really neat looking shoelaces on them for school that year. And the next year, not quite a year later, his shoelace broke. So I took him back to Nordstrom and asked for, because they were really unique shoelaces. And I asked them for, to buy the shoelaces. And she says, well, let me go look. I don't think we carry those, which of course they didn't. But she brought out another pair of shoes for him, just like him, a size larger because his foot had grown, right, and no charge.
Right.
And my kids had, so I was divorced. So my kids would shop with their dad at, I don't know, Penny's or wherever. And then of course I didn't make the money he did. So I would take them to Nordstrom and excuse me, and just buy one outfit and shoes. And they just were amazed. My son, well, I had my daughter too, and they go, well, how come it was free? Did you do something special? And I go, no. And this was in front of the lady that was helping us. I said, no, this store is special. And she just did what she was supposed to do. And she was very kind about it. And I told her thank you and everything. But she just said, oh, nobody usually mentions anything about it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
such a good point. And Nordstrom is very well known for that. Things have changed a lot with brick and mortar now because so
Yeah.
much is online naturally. But it's interesting. There's the old line about if you have a bad experience, you'll tell 10 people. If you have a good experience, you'll tell 2 or 3 people. It's something like that. So it's that good news is really, really good to hear. And those are the kind of testimonials that speak so much louder than anything that could be said in advertising or anything else too. So, Sajad.
I think Jeff wanted to say something great about me.
Oh, Jeff, your hand looks like it's part of the food logo. I can't get over that.
I've already made a note that I need to edit that to have a little square so that when I raise my hand, people can see it. But no, I had a great conversation with Mark, and we were talking about kind of applying the Nordstrom concept or methodology to a system or a business where if we were talking about like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But from the other side of it, how can it be used to improve an already working system? So we had a great conversation around that. And shout out to Sajad for just being awesome and a great friend and supporter.
Well, I'll tell you, I hadn't planned on telling this story, but now that you said that, Jeff, I'll tell you how I met this young man, Mark Caton. I'm selling suits. I haven't even gone on to, maybe I was manager, but anyway, but it was either selling suits or managing the department, but not managing the store. So he comes in and he's a nice guy, but he's a high roller. I can tell he's like with, I think, wasn't it Memorex at the time? Yeah. And so it's in the Seattle store. And so I need some new suits. And so I start getting all these suits and I line them all up. And I think we had literally about 8 or 10 suits or something. And I'm thinking commission, this can be a nice commission. And he says, well, I got to make a decision here. And I never met him before. And he's a new customer. And he says, well, you probably are going to make a lot of commission on this whole thing. I said, it doesn't matter what I make. Do you want to look good or do you want to just look like a schlep of something? He goes, great, I'll take all of them. And so after that, we went, we should be friends. And we've been friends ever since. He's actually a very honored and appreciated stepfather of my son, Connor, who lives down in San Diego, where Mark does. And Mark's been a good stepfather to him for the better part of 10 or 12 years, which I appreciate immensely. So, but you never know how all these things are going to connect. So, all right. Well, without any other question, I think what I'll do, Colleen, go ahead.
I was just going to add, one of the things that we talked about was being grateful, but also adding things that make you smile and make you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Because it changes the mindset also. And then when you look back on it in one of those dark moments, you have things not only that you are thankful for, but you're going to remember the good things, the fun times. And being grateful, being happy, being joyful does not equate with being miserable. So it really switches that whole mindset. You can't be both of those at the same time. So if you're focusing on the good, then the bad and the sad and all of that sort of takes a backseat.
Yeah, great point. Great point. So, Jod.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, Colleen. I saw a TikTok or Insta reel that was this guy was a multimillionaire by the time he was 24, and it was one of those videos on entrepreneur advice. And he said, the reason I have millions of dollars is because I'm fun and happy. And people want fun. This is like the 5th time I've said this in 2 days now. Some type of theme. It must be because I'm at my mountain. But yeah, that when you're fun, Suzanne Taylor King and I talk about this a lot too, that people hire her and hire me, not based on anything that we're saying, just the energy of having autonomy, being in a place of peace, and just having a good time. And if you're having a good time, you're going to get more money because people want to have fun. And it's not even necessarily the specific things you say, I'm going to help you do this, that, and the other. I had one lady say to me, whoa, that was fun after I pitched. She said, okay, I want to hire you. I said, great. I don't think she paid attention to what I said at all. She just enjoyed the show. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, this came up during Mini Shark Tank today. It has to be authentic. That like when you go to a networking event and they say, we're going to have a good time today. It's like, oh, you're trying to force me to be happy. It's not going to happen. You have to. Jim Schulman is a happy person who tells a lot of jokes. I'm a happy person that tells a lot of jokes. So the events that I do with people are fun because I deal with fun, happy people. So I think that even though it relates to happiness without capitalism or without money, it also relates to money as well. If you got a bad attitude, I have a client that's like that right now. If you have a bad attitude, nobody's going to give you money because bad energy, bad attitude, shitty attitude towards people will repulse money.
Good point. And just to tag back to what Colleen was saying, as well as Sajad, somebody once told me years ago, and I said I wanted to be a speaker, and they said, start off the talk with a joke. And I never subscribed to that theory. I'm sure there's still people that do it, but there are stories that people laugh at. And I tell one story about how when it was 2013, and I'd been working in retail for all these years, but I always wanted to be a speaker and never did it. So it was December 27, 2013. So just about 10 years ago. And I'm working at Lowe's, and I come home and it's 2 PM, and Connor goes, "What are you doing home early?" He's 17 at the time. And I said, "I quit." And he said, "You quit working at Lowe's?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You quit being a store manager?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, what are you going to do now?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be a speaker." And he looks up from the couch and he goes, "Well, that's just super, Dad." And he goes, "I have a question for you. What are we going to do for food?" And so I had to kind of make good on that. Don't worry, we'll be okay. So, all right. So let's, got 3 minutes left. I'm going to just wrap up on my top 10 takeaways from my talks. I do, as you know, workshops and keynote speeches, breakouts, and all those kinds of things, plenary sessions and so forth. But I always try to leave people with the final 10 things. If they heard nothing else, they would remember this. Number one, which it's number one for a reason, and that is work on the relationship with you. If you're having a tough time in the relationship with you, start writing in a gratitude journal. It's amazing what it'll do when you focus on your blessings and abundance, and you're not thinking about all these other people and, oh, woe is me, and any of those. Same reason that most memorable events exercise is really good. Number two, no surprise, get a gratitude journal and write in it. If you start out with just writing one day a week, one sentence, or one day a day, rather, one word a day, I'll get it right, or one sentence a day, that's fine. And then see how you feel after a week, and then try writing 2 sentences. This gratitude journal, I've timed it 1,000,000 times. It's 5 minutes is all it takes. It's part of my morning power hour with my stretching and my meditation and making my bed and turning on the coffee and all that kind of thing before I even turn on the electronic devices, which is so important, and not let those rule your morning until you got a good foundation for your day. Number 3, monitor your self-talk. I'm always fascinated. I've said to people, I just generally don't forget names, and they go, "You're great with names." I'm terrible with names. And I go, "You just keep saying that. You'll always be terrible with names." So think about the self-talk. Exercise. Every book I've written, especially people that are my age and up, it's always about get your exercise every day. It's so critical. The physical and relates to the mental and the emotional piece of it as well. Talk about this one, connect with positive friends. What do you think all these people are? Some of the kind comments that have been said today is about positive friends that want to impact lives and make a difference, which is so important. Help others. If you want to help yourself, help other people. We're coming into that time of year where it's even more acute, but I think it's something you should do all the time. And I think it was Zig Ziglar, one of those guys, said you can help somebody else get what they want, you'll get what you need. Feed your brain. Always have good positive. I listen to a ton of podcasts, a lot of Audible books. I just finished the book on Elon Musk, which for a nonfiction book is a big book on Audible, but it was a page turner, and just fascinated by what he's done. It was really, really cool. Learn to listen, and then listen to learn. People, I can't get over how many people insert themselves into their conversations that you have with you, but didn't listen to a thing you said. "Oh, you just got back from Hawaii? That's so interesting. I went to Hawaii." We're not talking about you. We're not talking about you. We're not talking about you. We're talking about them. When they're done, you can tell us what you want to tell us. So the exercises that I do, the UR card that I mentioned with Colleen, the memorable exercise, the most memorable events of your life. There's another one on the gratitude journal. Use those, keep them handy, put them on and Colleen had the little 3x5 card, which I'm so proud of her for still having, and put it on your mirror, your refrigerator, your bulletin board, what have you. And then the final thing, which I coach people on finding their next purpose. It's called Encore Endeavor, Fulfilling Your Greater Purpose. And it's recently retired people that want to figure out what their next challenge is. And it's all about searching for your purpose. And it starts with finding yourself and having a great relationship with yourself. And then next, figuring out what your talent is. Make sure you make your strengths productive, make your weaknesses irrelevant. And then next is finding out what you're passionate about. And you do those three things, you'll probably figure out your purpose. And whether you're my age or a bunch of these young folks here, all these different ages, it doesn't matter. If you find your purpose, you'll have a very fulfilling life. So, all right, any final thoughts before we wrap up? Thank you, everybody, for attending. As I said, I know it's a busy time of year, so I appreciate everybody coming out for the Gratitude Mastermind. The next one will be January 3rd. Plus, I'm going to be introducing a Gratitude Roundtable, which is going to be a higher level, sort of more in-depth program for probably a dozen or so people starting in January, and then actually promoting in January, starting in February. So, all right, everybody, no last minute. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great holiday. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you all in January. Take
We
care.
appreciate you, David.
Oh, thank you,
Take
Derek.
care.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Larry.
David.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.